Charles. Okay, we have another question, and this one is from dear Elliot.
Oh my word.
Elliot Smith.
Yay, Elliot, hi.
And he says, or asks, tell me about the stop thrust.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yes, okay. I'll tell you about the stop thrust, all right. Elliot happens to have a very good stop thrust.
That's right, he does.
Oh,
he has
boy.
the rapier pair.
Oh yeah,
The pair
yeah.
to the rapier,
Yeah, and I've seen him fence épée, and boy, he uses the stop thrust with great skill, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's intriguing that he would ask that question. Okay, let's do it. The stop thrust. When we talk about the stop thrust, we're talking about a single situation. And if you keep that in mind, you'll never have a doubt as to when you should use your stop thrust. And that single situation is if somebody highly aggressive comes forward waving his blade at you, throwing all sorts of hostile movement in your direction, including the kitchen sink. If you try to parry that person, you're probably going to lose to them. And because they're not giving you anything you can parry. The stop thrust is designed to use against people who don't lead with the point. They lead with their elbows, they come in, or they'll lead with their feet, they'll lead with everything except an extended arm and the point coming out. And you know yourself, if you think about it for a second, you can't parry a blade that isn't trying to hit your target. If they're extended at you, trying to come to your target, then you have something there that you can parry. But if they're coming in with multiple coupes, like you see so much of, or multiple wavings of the blade, this kind of thing, that stuff just can't be parried. That's called garbage in my world. So if they're coming in, throwing garbage in your direction, the best and actually the only practical defense you have is a well-timed stop thrust. You see this all the time in contemporary fencing. Very few fencers on the lower levels of fencing can do a direct attack. They don't have the speed or the timing or the distance to score with any dependability with direct action, so they'll try to run in very close, waving their blade down someplace where you can't parry it, and then when they get close enough they'll jab in with then multiple jabs, you see. Well, if you try to defend against that kind of fencer, you get into trouble, because the best possible thing, the best way to stop them is to put a point out that they can run onto. We're talking now, if we go back in time to the dueling ground, that was the absolute central issue with sharp points. You try to hit your opponent as he comes forward with the stopping action, which is the simplest thing to do. A stop thrust is very easy to perform, very safe to perform against anybody who doesn't lead on their offensive with their point. You see, they lead again, as I said earlier, waving their blades in some fashion or another. Now, but executing a stop thrust, now that's another thing. The stop thrust isn't just jabbing at somebody who's running at you. That's a stop thrust, but that's pretty crude. Good stop thrust is done with the lowering of the body, first of all. You lower and extend at the same time. You lower the body to reduce the size of the target area. So if somebody comes running at me, I might even step back, give myself a split-second leeway on seeing what's actually happening there, or whatever the case, where I may stand still and do it right there. But in all events, when the stopping action comes out, the body lowers itself. And I can step back and lower myself. I can be caught coming forward and lower myself, you see. And, or I can just be standing there having the setup prepared. And when the attack comes, lower and put the point out. And that's the answer to that. And Elliot, I've seen your fence, and you have a very good sense of timing and distance in your fencing. But the one flaw I have observed in you is when you do your stopping action, you straighten your legs up, like most fencers do. They'll jump back, straighten their legs, and put the stop out. And that's bad technique, because that puts you vulnerable to an accidental hit against you. And as you know, the stop thrust against an attack never takes time. The attack always takes time. If the director can't distinguish between the stopping action and the attack, the benefit of a doubt always goes to the attack, because the stopping action is always in place of the parry, you see. So as the old rule books all say, when you use the stop thrust, use it at your own risk, because the forward momentum of the person you're putting the point on may convince the director that that person has a right-of-way, say if it's in foil. If it's an épée, you don't care really. So anyway, lower your body when you do your stop thrust, and do it with a great deal of relaxed precision, so the point control is really good. You don't want to miss the target on the stop thrust. Okay, that's about all I have to say on that subject.
You don't want to say any more about it in relation to the épée, besides what you just did, in case you meant épée?
No, I could. In épée, yeah, that's a good question. In épée, the stop thrust is much more important than it is in foil. In foil, the basic thought on defense is the retreat and the parry. Where in épée, the basic thought on defense is lowering the body and putting the stop thrust out. The épée fencer uses the stop thrust in place of the parry. He's in essence doing a parrying with the point of his weapon, you see. And that's why in épée fencing you don't see a lot of parrying going on, but you do see a lot of stop thrusts. Sometimes with the take of the blade, say I take a circle 6 with a stop thrust, I can go through the cart line with a stop thrust to the backside, that sort of thing. But it's always, the defense is the stop thrust. And that's worth contemplating, and when you do your sparring and practicing, think of it that way and practice it that way. The stop thrust is the main form of defense in épée. And in foil, the parry is the main source of defense. So that's it.